Recently I made a video where I used a bent piece of wire to help me pick a LFIC Lock 2 control. But then shortly thereafter I was asked if I could pick some Schlage Everest Primus cores out of their lock bodies. So they were LFIC cores in a lock body, had no keys, and somebody was looking to see if I could get a few out. So I knew I need a more robust tool, so I used this Covert Instruments do-it-yourself pick blank and made myself a more specialized tool. So let me show you how I used this tool to pick these cores out of the lock body, and then stay tuned to the end and I'll go into a more thorough description of this tool itself. Okay, first off, you start by inserting the tool. Sometimes it takes a little fiddling to get that inserted properly. Put in a top key tensioner and start to pick. One of the challenges is that with this tool it can be a little difficult to get good feedback. So it kind of gives a springiness to the bottom of the keyway that you're picking off of that makes it difficult, or a little more difficult at least, to determine how the set state of your pins. Okay, just go along picking things. Didn't think I had something set in the back, so I reach in with this steep hook to grab that. Got a nice good click out of pin 6. Okay, then checking for more pins, looking for what's holding me up. Again, fighting with that little confusing feedback. And now I got that movement on the plug, which indicates now I'm resting against the sidebar. Gonna go in with my flag pick there to pick at the sidebar. I'm going to speed this up because I took quite a bit of time fiddling with this. I'm not sure how old the lock is, but it's clearly been out in the weather. The pins weren't moving quite as freely as they would if it were a brand new lock. Somewhere around here, I felt the tiniest bit of movement on the plug again, which means I was probably about ready to try to get this lock out. But I wasn't 100% sure, so here I sped it up. I'm testing the pins a little bit just to make sure they're in the right spot. Now I think I've got things set, so I'm going to bounce the turning tool and wiggle around the control tool. Now I appear to be picked to control, and I'll pull it out. There we go. Aha! Okay, but for real. So the goal of this tool was first that it had to be easy to insert and withdraw. It had to trigger the control pin on these locks, and it had to be set to the right depth, right, so that this side wouldn't interfere with picking the sixth pin, right, for the pin tumbler, and that it wouldn't go past this. Right, so it had to sit just right and be easy to use. So looking at the depth of this lock body, just measuring that, right, with, just take a few measurements there because it's not perfect. Right, and then measuring the depth of this and figuring out what the overlap between those two were. I figured out that I needed a little less than 2 millimeters of this transition, so that's where I made the ramp on this side. Then I needed about 2 millimeters here. I think I had some leeway. I could be up to about 2.3 millimeters. And then the rest of this shape, where if I find my original, I could turn into a ramp. Now the ramp had to be shallow enough that I could withdraw this, right? It wouldn't get stuck behind the key pins, but also steep enough that it wouldn't interfere with picking. And that one I eyeballed. I don't have a measurement on that. So it basically started off like so. Right, it's about 6.3 millimeters tall. And I think it could be slightly shorter. As you saw, I had to fiddle with it a little bit to actually get it to roll over to control. So I think this is a little bit too tall. And then I shaved the shank down considerably, right? Because this is a really beefy guy, and it needed to be a lot thinner so that I could have space after it was inserted to pick the top pins and then pick the finger pins on the side. But that's about all there is to it. Oh, and then I bent it. So it's designed so that it goes in all the way, right? Gets stopped by the back actuator, and then sits right where it needs to on that pin, is out of the way for picking the top stack. And then I discovered later that I kind of had to fiddle with it and move it out of the way so that I could get those side finger pins without too much interference. But it does work out. It can be withdrawn, and very usable. I used it to pick 8 cores out that we didn't have keys for. So it works pretty consistently. And there it is.